Hey guys, in this lesson, I'm going to be answering the questions, what is ethical hacking? Why do we need ethical hackers? Are there perhaps any rules that I might, should be aware of that might be important? The ones that'll keep you out of jail? Yes, absolutely. So let's get to it. As I mentioned in the introduction, it's extremely important that you understand the difference between ethical hacking and the kind of hacking that gets you, prison. Let's start with the big question. What is ethical hacking? Many people have a negative association when they hear hacker because there have been many widely publicized hackers who've used their skills to steal money or private information, and they make it on the front page, and then you see them in jail. Those are black hat hackers, and from now on we're just going to call them black hats. They have malicious intentions, operate illegally, don't have a written agreement, don't have any permission, they're doing this of their own free will or, to gain money, and they're the bad kinds. They have a very short lifespan. They won't last long, and the worst part about it is they really can't advertise what they do or publicize what they've done because they're going to go to jail. Ethical hackers, however, also pen testers, are white hats, hopefully. The main difference between black and white hats is intention. In the legal world, intentions matter, and I know this from personal experience. The reason I didn't spend life in prison was largely because of intentions. But we will talk about that some other time. An ethical hacker has written permission from an organization to hack into their systems. I'm going to repeat that. An ethical hacker has written permission, not just a guy said it was going to be fine or he gave you verbal permission. This is one of those get it in writing, get it in writing, get it in writing. The goal here is to identify, exploit, and report vulnerabilities before a malicious hacker or black hat can take advantage of them. Ethical hackers can also recommend how the organization can fix their vulnerabilities and adjust their defenses. Depending on what engagement you're on or what kind of team you're on, or if you're a consultant or just part of a large company, you might not be making the recommendations on how to fix. You might just be finding the problems and then passing it on. But you should know the basics of how to remediate or fix these types of problems. Also, super important, ethical hackers don't reveal things that they find, especially when there's a contract or non-disclosure in place, which is why that's usually the first piece of paper you sign, even before finding out the scope of the job. So, how did we get to this white hat versus black hat world? Well, here's some hacker history. The true definition of hacker is, could be various things, but a technology enthusiast, somebody who enjoys modifying or figuring ways around things, breaking stuff, figuring out how things work, and ultimately maybe likes puzzles and likes the challenge. Ultimately, you're going to get stuff to work against the way a designer intended. Before the internet, hacking meant taking apart your radio or your television set or your remote and trying to make it do stuff that it wasn't supposed to do. Now we've got whole piles of stuff to hack. Now that the internet has connected everyone, literally, together, and it's enabled hackers to easily move beyond small-scale hacking, this started the ongoing game of hacker versus security teams. As technology evolves, so do hackers' attacks. And then security has to adapt, and then the hackers adapt, and you see where I'm going with this. Since the battle is ongoing, it's important as an ethical hacker to stay up to date on the latest hacking trends. Whether it be phishing, whether it be malware, whatever you're kind of into, whatever niche you kind of want to specialize in, you should definitely know those, but just the overall general trends. You can get those from Reddit, NetSec. There's plenty of different blogs, Krebs on security. I'll list a few in the supplemental materials for you. At the core of hacking is the battle to preserve or disrupt three key elements, what would be called the CIA of a system. CIA stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality means to safeguard the system's information and keep it away from unauthorized parties. Sounds fair. Integrity means to ensure that the information stays true and correct to its original purpose. The data received is the data originally intended by the developers for the user to receive. and availability means to keep data accessible to authorized parties when they try to access it. Ethical hackers work to preserve the CIA of a secure system by thinking about how to disrupt those different things, by thinking like a black hat. But you also need to be careful not to overstep your legal hacking boundaries into anything that actually disrupts the CIA of a system. I think rules that kind of apply to every IT person that doubly apply here are don't delete client data and don't disrupt their systems. Don't reboot stuff in the middle of the day. Do not impact regular operations unless specifically told to in writing. And then if you can have your boss do it or somebody else do it, it's usually a better idea. So you have a written contract that gives you hacking permission. Now what? Now it's time to hack stuff. Well, there are 4 phases to the hacking process: recon or footprinting, scanning, enumeration, and finally system hacking. We will cover each of these phases in detail throughout this course. The recon or footprinting phase is where we gather information about a target, as much as possible from a distance, so we can make a more educated guess or make more educated decisions later on. Scanning is where we get in closer, evaluate the information we got from the recon phase, try to identify targets, networks, systems, buildings, whatever. Enumeration is where we take that information and process it into more of a final strategy, crack passwords, escalation of privileges. We're actually starting to engage and work with the client network, and that leads up to, and usually seamlessly into, the hacking phase, where we completely own whatever we're going after, whether it's a wireless network or a client workstation, the whole company, all their email, whatever the target objective is. That's how you're going to get there. An additional phase for ethical hackers is that you'll need to generate a report to present your findings and recommendations to whoever authorized you to hack their system. So, in order to do that, you should be taking notes throughout every single phase, and lots of them. Copy and paste is your friend. Be organized. If you don't do this early and you don't start getting into the habit, you will only hate yourself later, and I'll be there to tell you, I told you so. Well, that concludes this lecture, and we have so much more to cover, so go ahead and click fast forward to the next lecture, and I will see you there. Hey guys, I wanted to talk to you about careers for ethical hackers. There are a ton of options for ethical hackers and pen testers on the market today. You would just be amazed at how many jobs are available. Every healthcare company, every major computer consulting company is creating jobs around this because they're afraid of data breaches. So this is the perfect time to become an ethical hacker or a pen tester. You will never run out of jobs for this, period. It's not going to be one of those ups and downs sort of thing. And, oh, we got too many nurses and now you're not going to have a job and we're having massive layoffs. This is the thing that's crippling companies left, right, and center. Is a new position at a C level, which is called the Chief Information Security Officer. Other things that you might see is like Global Head of IT or Information Security. And then it goes into directors and managers. And some companies have security engineers integrated with all of their different departments. Other companies have completely separate, isolated security teams. If you're interested in pen testing and actually hacking for a living, try and find a consulting company or a red team to join. You might want to study for a variety of the different pen testing and ethical hacking certifications, like Certified Ethical Hacker or GPEN, or a variety of these other sort of junior level certs. If you are already in IT, and you should be at this point, you might want to consider a CCNA for networking or other A+, Net+, these types of basic certifications that show that and demonstrate that you already have some knowledge and you're willing to study and actually complete something. Companies want to see that this is your career and it's not just I'm taking a job because I have to. There's a lot of different specialities that you can actually use once you've become an ethical hacker or pen tester. You can do code review, which means you understand the C language or other different languages that you're going to be using, and you're going to be reviewing different applications and their weaknesses and trying to find vulnerabilities in them. Other times you're going to be hacking mobile applications for iPhones or Androids, or you can be hacking web applications for the internet, WordPress. Other times it's actually attacking a network from the outside, from the inside. There's so many different opportunities. So it's really what you like. I mean, then there's even support roles like sales. If you like to sell the stuff, if you want to know a little bit about it, you can be a sales engineer. The job field is wide open. And if you have any questions or want help finding jobs, I am more than happy to do so, and connect with me on LinkedIn or in the comments section of this course, and we can go from there. I'll be posting some other resources in the supplement for this module, and some links and helpful places where to find work and that kind of thing. So if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me, and I will see you guys in the next lesson.